when evil becomes cosmic. In fiction, the most terrifying antagonists are not merely criminals or conquerors. They are forces, philosophical, metaphysical, or existential, whose presence fractures morality itself. These figures do more than commit atrocities, they redefine reality in their image. Through calculated cruelty, boundless ambition, ideological fanaticism, predatory instinct, or divine tyranny, they erode hope and expose the instability of order. What makes them endure in the imagination is not only the scale of their destruction, but the uncomfortable truth they suggest. Evil can be intelligent, persuasive, systematic, and sometimes victorious. What follows is an examination of several such embodiments of ultimate malevolence, what defines their wickedness, the horrors they unleash, and why they remain profoundly disturbing.
He never sleeps. He says that he will never die. He dances in light and in shadow, and he is a great favorite.
Judge Holden, Apostle of War Without End. Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian presents Judge Holden as less a man than a metaphysical principle. Enormous, hairless, eerily erudite, the judge radiates an uncanny presence that feels older than the American frontier he traverses. He is not driven by greed or revenge. Instead, he advances a philosophy that war is the purest expression of existence. In his view, conflict is the ultimate arbiter of truth, and domination is the only law. What separates Holden from other killers is his intellectualization of brutality. He does not simply commit atrocities. He frames them as cosmic inevitabilities. He lectures on science, art, and history even as he participates in massacres. Knowledge to him is ownership. Anything that exists outside his awareness is an affront to his authority.
Whatever in creation exists without my knowledge exists without my consent.
Violence becomes ritual, almost sacred, a means of asserting control over a chaotic universe. Throughout the Glanton Gang's campaign of slaughter, Holden commits acts of shocking cruelty, including the killing of innocents and children, not out of rage but from detached conviction. His pursuit of the kid across decades culminates in a final act of annihilation that suggests violence is inescapable. McCarthy implies that the judge may be eternal, appearing across eras as if he were the embodiment of war itself. Holden terrifies because he is calm, articulate, and unpunished. He dances, he smiles, he lectures, and he kills. He represents the possibility that cruelty is not aberration but foundation, and that history itself may be guided by those who worship conflict. The Joker, prophet of absurdity. The Joker stands as chaos personified within the mythos of Batman. Since his debut in 1940, he has evolved into the archetype of anarchic evil, a villain uninterested in empire or wealth, but obsessed with proving that morality is fragile theater. His central belief is simple: one catastrophic day can reduce anyone to madness. Society, in his eyes, is a facade maintained by comfort and illusion. Remove stability, apply trauma, and watch virtue collapse. His crimes are less about material gain and more about psychological demolition. From crippling Barbara Gordon and tormenting her father in The Killing Joke, to murdering Jason Todd in A Death in the Family, the Joker's acts are crafted as experiments. Even his most grotesque gestures, mutilating himself, poisoning entire groups, orchestrating moral dilemmas, are performances designed to unravel order. What makes the Joker enduringly frightening is his adaptability. He reflects the anxieties of whatever era portrays him: terrorism, nihilism, societal breakdown. He embodies them all. He laughs at meaning itself, and in doing so invites the unsettling thought that sanity may be circumstantial.
At least it is true that man has no control, even over his own will.
Griffith, the dream that devoured everything. In Kentaro Miura's Berserk, Griffith begins as an idealist, a brilliant, charismatic leader determined to rise above his origins and claim a kingdom. His ambition inspires devotion, yet that same ambition ultimately reveals its monstrous core. Griffith's defining trait is his willingness to sacrifice anything for his dream. When broken by failure and imprisonment, he accepts an offer of apotheosis that demands the lives of those who loved and followed him. The eclipse, an infernal ritual, transforms him into Femto, a member of the God Hand. His comrades are slaughtered in a grotesque spectacle of demonic consumption. In this rebirth, Griffith abandons all humanity. He commits violations not merely physical but existential, shattering minds and corrupting futures. Later, he reemerges as a radiant savior figure, orchestrating wars and reshaping the world while presenting himself as humanity's hope. Griffith's horror lies in betrayal elevated to cosmic scale. He is beautiful, composed, revered, yet utterly hollow. He demonstrates how noble aspirations, when stripped of empathy, can justify apocalypse. His rise suggests that evil can cloak itself in light.
I see.
Sauron, the will to dominate. Sauron, Tolkien's Dark Lord, represents tyranny distilled to essence. Originally a being devoted to order, he falls into the belief that control is the highest good. Free will to him is chaos that must be subdued. By forging the One Ring, he seeks not merely conquest, but absolute authority over thought and action. He corrupts entire civilizations, manipulates kings, breeds armies, and reduces landscapes to wastelands. His destruction of Numenor through deception and pride results in cataclysmic ruin. Even when disembodied, Sauron persists as the Eye, ever watching, ever seeking. He is less personality than presence, an oppressive force pressing against the edges of the world. Sauron's terror stems from his impersonality. He is systemic oppression incarnate, a reminder that domination can present itself as order. His shadow suggests that centralized power, once embraced, rarely relinquishes its grip.
Hiya, Georgie. What a nice boat. Do you want it back? You look like a nice boy.
Stephen King's Pennywise is not merely a killer disguised as a clown, but a primordial entity feeding on terror. Its truest form exists beyond human comprehension, but it manifests in shapes tailored to its victims' deepest fears. Every 27 years, it awakens to prey upon children in Derry, manipulating both individuals and the town itself. Its crimes are savage and intimate, exploiting vulnerability and trauma. The murder of Georgie Denbrough becomes emblematic of innocence devoured. Pennywise's cruelty is theatrical. It delights in psychological torment, intensifying fear before the kill. Beyond individual acts, it poisons the town's moral fabric, encouraging apathy and violence. The horror of Pennywise lies in its adaptability. It becomes whatever terrifies most. It turns symbols of joy into instruments of dread. In doing so, it suggests that fear itself is an eternal predator.
Sire, if I may, you embody the Emperor's hope.
Erebus, architect of apostasy. Within the brutal universe of Warhammer 40,000, Erebus stands as the instigator of galactic catastrophe. A priest of chaos, he manipulates belief as weapon and infection. Through calculated humiliation and ideological corruption, he pushes Primarch Lorgar toward forbidden gods. His machinations ultimately contribute to the Horus Heresy, a civil war that fractures humanity's empire and condemns untold billions. Erebus murders allies, sacrifices innocents, and engineers betrayals without hesitation. His evil is evangelical. He spreads damnation under the banner of revelation. He is frightening, not because he dominates openly, but because he whispers. In a universe already defined by war, Erebus ensures that faith itself becomes a tool of annihilation. The Crimson King, entropy with intent. The Crimson King of the Dark Tower series seeks nothing less than the collapse of reality. Obsessed with destroying the tower that anchors existence, he manipulates events across dimensions. Through psychic exploitation and monstrous agents, he weakens the beams that sustain worlds. He breeds heirs of destruction, corrupts minds, and turns human frailty into cosmic catastrophe. Unlike structured tyrants, the Crimson King embodies madness. His rage is irrational, almost childish, yet empowered by near-divine capacity. He evokes dread because he represents entropy given consciousness. Palpatine's evil is political precision. He does not conquer through brute force alone. He engineers crisis, manufactures war, and positions himself as savior while orchestrating collapse. By manipulating both sides of the Clone Wars, he secures emergency powers that evolve into dictatorship. His execution of Order 66 annihilates the Jedi, and his superweapons demonstrate a willingness to eradicate entire planets to maintain authority. Palpatine corrupts not only systems, but individuals. He exploits fear and insecurity, turning Anakin Skywalker into Darth Vader. What makes him terrifying is his patience. He hides behind genial smiles and parliamentary speeches while dismantling democracy piece by piece. He represents the terrifying plausibility of tyranny born from within. God and Angels Before Man, the tyrant at the root of creation. In Raphael Nickolas's Angels Before Man, God is portrayed not as a benevolent father, but as an omnipotent authoritarian whose love is inseparable from control. He creates angels flawless in form, yet bound solely to worship, shaping heaven into a rigid hierarchy where devotion is compulsory and individuality is dangerous. His cruelty is quiet but absolute, rooted in possessiveness and the demand for unquestioned adoration. His most disturbing act lies in his design of Lucifer. Though fashioned as the most radiant and favored angel, Lucifer is burdened with shame and inner conflict, flaws embedded without guidance or comfort. God withholds reassurance, allowing doubt to fester, and when Lucifer's identity and affections begin to shift, especially toward Michael, he responds not with compassion but jealousy and wrath, exposing the conditional nature of his love. As unrest spreads, God answers longing for autonomy with catastrophe. He wages celestial war and casts Lucifer and his followers out of heaven, condemning them to eternal exile. This fall is framed not as justice but as vindictive annihilation, punishment for seeking selfhood and authentic love. The horror of this portrayal is foundational. Evil begins at the throne. Heaven becomes a gilded prison where obedience replaces purpose, and questioning invites damnation. In this vision, divinity is not grace but domination, paradise reduced to tyranny, bathed in light.